Hello, welcome to Yoga with Paige, and welcome to my first video. Thank you for tuning in. I'm super excited to be beginning this channel. I wanted my first two videos to be a breakdown of some of the most commonly used postures that you'll be seeing in future videos, and just walking through the alignment of them. Alignment is so important. We don't want to be learning a pose the wrong way, can cause serious injury. And talking about some modifications, using props or little variations to poses to find what feels the best in our bodies, because this is your practice. And I want you to feel that you have found a space for yourself and you know what feels good in your body, because every pose is not going to look the same on every body, but every body can do yoga. You don't have to be super flexible. You just have to be you and show up, and you are already doing that. So let's begin. The first pose we will be talking about is Savasana, which translates from Sanskrit into easy pose, but I think it's more about the ease of the pose and finding what feels the best in your body to make it easy pose. This is not an easy pose for everyone by all means, but let's try our hardest to find the easy comfort in this pose that feels good to you. So in elementary school, if you remember crisscross applesauce, it's basically the shape we are taking here, crossing the shins underneath, or crossing the ankles underneath opposite shins. When we look down, we should see a triangle, and resting the outer edges of the feet on the mat, the inner edges of the feet touching the shins or the knees, finding what feels good here, kind of wiggling around, finding placement of the feet. And once we feel comfortable here, we start to tilt the pelvis, trying to find a neutral position, not hunched over, not swaying, pushing in the lower back. We try and neutralize the pelvis, thinking of a string going from the pelvis up through the spine, through the heart center, and extending through the crown of the head. One nice line. And the hands have a lot of opportunities here. We can rest them on the knees, have them palms open. We can place them gently on the thighs. We can place them on the belly and start to notice our breath here. We can bring palms together, Anjali Mudra, the heart center, starting to check in here with how the heart feels. And if this is not comfortable for you, we can place a blanket, a folded up blanket, or a block underneath the sit bones, right underneath the bum, to elevate the hips higher than the knees. If we're having trouble lengthening the spine or we're being pulled backwards, and we can widen the legs as much as we would like. No pose looks the same on every body. We're finding what feels the best to you. This is your practice. So we can play around with these props, play around with the hand placement. And that is easy pose, finding ease. And the next two poses we are talking about is cat and cow. They are separate poses, but they are used in conjunction with one another to really start mirroring movement with breath and finding that what that looks like and what that feels like in the body. Cat-cow is usually a warm-up. Warming up the spine, we start to move around the spinal fluid and warm up the spine. So before we do the traditional cat-cow, if we have any wrist or knee sensitivity, we can always do cat-cow seated, finding what easy pose feels good to you, and then placing the hands upon the knees. And on the inhale, we use the opposition of the hands on the knees to bring the chest forward, rolling the shoulders back and down, gazing slightly upwards, just opening up the chest here, feeling the collarbones widen. And on the exhale, we round through the back, maybe shifting the weight back on the tailbones a little bit, really pressing, opening up the shoulders, trying to create space in between the shoulder blades here, just rounding the back, tucking the chin slightly into the chest. Inhaling to open and lift the chest, and exhaling to round through the back. And if we want to do traditional cat-cow, we start on all fours, shoulders in line with wrists, and hips in line with knees. This is a good place to check the mirror alignment if we have a mirror around. We spread through all of the fingers, spreading them apart, grounding through the hands and the tops of the feet. And on the inhale, we drop the belly, opening up the chest. We arch the back, gazing forward, opening up through the throat, and lengthening from the pelvis to the sternum. We're spreading through the fingers and turning the insides of the elbows out to the front a little, being careful not to overextend the arms like mine do, finding a nice strength and then pushing away from the floor. And on the exhale, rounding the back, bringing the head down to gaze in between the fingers, not forcefully tucking the chin into the chest, but just letting the head hang. Letting it hang where it wants to hang, wherever it may hang. And rounding through that, pressing through the hands like you're pressing the floor away. Rounding through the back, finding a little space between the shoulder blades. Nice exhale. And inhale, we gaze up, drop the belly. And exhale, round. Start to mirror the breath with the movement here. Maybe we want to put a little spin on it. And exhale, really getting the spine warmed up here. And exhale. And that is cat and cow. From here, we will be talking about child's pose. So we put big toes together, big toes touching, widen the knees about as far as the yoga mat, and sink the hips back into the heels, extending the arms in front. And if this does not feel good or the hips can't reach the heels, we can always use our trusty block to kind of wedge that in there, finding what feels good to you, and reaching down, melting the heart into the mat. Taking nice breaths here, reaching out with the fingertips, feeling a nice stretch in the shoulders. If we would like, we can rest our head, our forehead on a block, if that feels good. Or we can interlace the fingers and make a little pillow for ourselves, a little pillow for our forehead. There are a lot of modifications we can do with the hands, the arms, and we're just finding what feels good on our bodies, whatever that looks like or feels like to you. We can also bring the knees in together. The wide child's pose is more of a hip opener. If we don't like that, if that doesn't feel good, we can bring the knees together. Bring the knees together and fold over that way. For child's pose, this is more of a lower back stretch here. And if we like, we can rest the forehead on a block. We can extend the arms behind us as well on the sides of the body. Okay, so whatever pose we're in, we're finding the variation or the modification that feels the best to us. And from child's pose, we'll be lifting up the chest, leaning, shifting our weight to one side, bringing the legs around to the front of the mat, extending them out in front of us. And if this does not feel good right here, don't go any further. Take a folded blanket or a stack of folded blankets and place them right underneath the sit bones until we find the elevation that feels comfortable. And if using a block or a blanket makes the pose accessible to you and makes the pose feel good to you, then that is what we should use. It does not mean that you suck or that you're not flexible enough or that you shouldn't be doing this. It means that you're listening to your body and what you need to make it more comfortable for you. We are just finding what feels good to you. This is your practice. It should not be uncomfortable. Anyways, little aside. This is staff pose. So for staff pose, we want to firm through the thighs, firm them into the mat. This is not just a hangout spot, just like Sukhasana. Every pose in yoga, except for Savasana, corpse pose, everyone's favorite. Every pose, we are holding some sort of firmness or tension in our muscles. It's an active, engaging process. We're not just hanging out. We are consciously thinking about and feeling our body and building more awareness into our body and ourselves. So we are firming the thighs into the ground and flexing the feet, pushing out energy through the heels, trying to press the heels into the wall in front of you. Either feet together or finding a little space hip width apart. And we again try to find that neutral position of the pelvis and raise up with a string through the crown of the head, sitting up nice and tall, taking nice breaths here. And the next pose we are going to be talking about is the seated forward fold. And instead of thinking about this pose as getting my forehead to touch my knees, we want to think about this pose as lengthening through the spine and finding length and then folding over. And we will have a slight rounding in the back, but this is not what it should look like. We don't want this. We want to find length in the spine first. And on the exhale, we slowly fold over. And wherever it feels good to stop, we stop. Your hands may reach way past your toes, your forehead might come to your shins. But if it doesn't, that's okay. That's where we are and that's where we should be. We inhale to find length in the spine and we exhale to fold over. Keeping the feet flexed, keeping tension in the feet. We're here. And if we have any belly compression, again, we can widen the feet if that helps us find the deeper sensation that we can do with the hamstrings if the belly is constricting us a little. Or we can, again, lift up the belly, get to know your body, touch it, play around with it, lift up the belly, and exhale to fold over, creating a little space. Here we can take a strap of any kind. It does not even have to be a yoga strap. Reach it around the ankles so we find the length in the spine, and we use the hands to pull us over, still keeping the integrity of the spine and pulling towards the feet. And we gently release. We take away the strap before using it. We take any props, any blocks, blankets out. And now, for everyone's favorite pose of the yoga class, Savasana, or corpse pose. Corpse pose. So leaning back on the elbows first, and then slowly lowering down to the mat. Feet and legs are hip width apart, and the feet, the toes, open to the sides of the mat. We let them fall where they want to fall. This is our final resting pose. This is where we have done all we wanted to accomplish throughout the practice. We feel awesome. And we rest here to allow all of the benefits of the practice to seep into our body. So we have lifting up the chest a little to tuck the shoulder blades in behind the back. Resting down. We soften through the groins and the hips and the lower back. We don't press the lower back into the mat. You'll have a slight lumbar curve here. We soften through the legs, the arms lie beside the body, palms facing up. And we begin here to just release. We release any tension we may be holding in the forehead skin, maybe even taking a hand in physically, touching the forehead, releasing tension, letting it go. We release any tension found in the mouth, in the tongue, around the eyes, and we rest here. To come out of corpse pose, on an exhale, we gently roll to one side. We stay here for a breath or two. And then on another exhale, we plant the hands and press through the hands to come up to a sitting position. And I hope you found this video helpful. If you have any questions or comments, comment them down below. Like, subscribe. I am so glad to be here. I will have a new video up on another 6 or 7 poses next week, and then I will have a beginner series flows. So we will actually start moving with the breath. We're taking all that we've learned and flowing through it all, finding what feels great to us in our body. Thank you for watching Yoga with Paige.